Hellblade 2 gets a 60 frames per second update with the enhanced edition coming out in August. The Xbox 360 gets an update in 2025. An interesting story there. I wonder if Xbox is setting it up for something, as the 20th anniversary for that console is upon us. PlayStation Plus, we get a lot more information as to how it's doing and the future of the games that could be coming into the service. So we'll talk about all of that plus many other things. But before we do get into it, make sure to hit that subscribe, share, like. It really helps get the video out there, helps more people find the channel. And I see many of you have been watching for a while. If you are not subscribed, consider hitting the subscribe button if you do enjoy the show. But for now, let's get into it. Hellblade 2, one of the most beautiful video games that we have ever seen in the cinematics, in the graphics, what they were able to create with this. But one of the things for a lot of people, I think, that did hold it back overall was not getting this in 60 frames per second on the Xbox consoles. I played through it. I don't think it really took away from the experience just because of the style of game it is. It's slow. It is not something that you're going to be having quick camera movements or anything. It is extremely cinematic. So the 30 frames per second on the Xbox Series X was completely fine for me. And it was one of the most beautiful games that I have ever seen. But now we don't even have to worry about that anymore, as Hellblade 2 has the enhanced edition that is arriving here on August 12th. And it is also coming to other platforms, which I know will have people talking. So we have Hellblade 2 Enhanced Edition coming to the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox on PC, Game Pass, Steam, and for the first time, PlayStation 5 on August 12th. One of the things, just a comment here, Xbox should just be saying Xbox PC going forward for all of the branding that they do have with the PC going forward, as that is going to be that ecosystem that encompasses everything. And that's going to be something very similar that we are going to be seeing on the consoles going into the next generation. They say the updated version includes graphical and gameplay additions, as well as enhanced photo mode and developer commentary, and it will become Steam Deck verified also on August 12th. This, if you do want to pick this one up, it will be $50 for the standard edition, and then also offering the deluxe edition for $70, which is the base game plus the optimized version of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice for PS5. And this version, the features that are coming with it, the big one here is the performance mode, which you'll be able to now experience this game in 60 frames per second. So they say here, now with performance mode, we're excited to give you the option to experience gameplay at 60 FPS, just not on the Xbox Series S. And the result is smoother gameplay, especially noticeable during combat and fast-moving moments on the game. And PC, where you had more flexibility or performance based on your personal hardware, we're now offering a very high preset to push that fidelity even further. I can't even imagine how good this is going to look with the highest end PCs out there, because it already looked amazing. And if they're pushing it even more, it's going to be pretty crazy. And they, again, are optimizing the game for the Steam Deck. So you can go ahead and get this and pick this up if you are interested on August 12th and play it in the 60 frames per second. And of course, the big thing here, the big difference, if you're on Xbox, this is a free update for the Series X and S and for the Xbox on PC and for Steam. So it's only the PlayStation players that are going to have to go out there and pay for this, because it'll be the first time that it does land on the platform. But if you have the game already, you can just go download that free update and experience that performance mode, something that I will do. And the question I will have, though, is on the consoles is, will this reduce the overall fidelity? Because this is definitely one of those games that you probably want to get the highest fidelity when you are playing it, just because of how beautiful it is. And they created this game kind of as a cinematography showcase of the worlds and the characters and the players and everything. So it doesn't really need the higher frame rate. I would, for a game like this, probably choose the fidelity mode, but that'll be everybody's personal choice when this has happened. And just having that option, though, is something that always should be in these games. That was kind of the standard that we were promised going into this generation. And there are some games that haven't had it at launch, but they eventually do end up getting updated. All right, let's talk about the Xbox 360. We're in 2025, and the Xbox 360 got an update. The Xbox 360 is up there as one of my favorite consoles of all time, if not my favorite console of all time. So hearing something like this is always interesting, and I will see exactly what this update is all about. I actually still have my 360 plugged in, and I hop onto it time and time again. So this is pretty cool. The Xbox 360 dashboard gets a significant update for the first time in ages. But here is the update. First of all, this is what the 360 dashboard looked like before. They kind of had completely gutted it and just made it very, very basic. No background, no nothing. You can see just not much there at all with the Xbox 360 interface and user interface. But now they did an update here. This is what it looks like after the fact. And this kind of comes out of nowhere, but they've made the text on the tiles better. They've added background. They've added some advertising here showing off the Xbox Series X and S, as well as a QR code to experience next gen performance, trying to get people to upgrade. It does look better. It is nice that they have done this. And one of the things that they may be doing this for is the fact that we are coming up on the 20th anniversary here for the Xbox 360 on November 22nd when this thing did launch. So maybe they're preparing something for that. And they're probably just out there thinking they need to try to convert more people who are still on the Xbox 360, because there still are people who play the Xbox 360 today, to jump over and buy one of the new consoles. The other thing is maybe they are putting behind the scenes upgrades, because their whole thing going forward is this is an Xbox. They're expanding their ecosystem in many ways to as many devices as possible. Maybe cloud streaming of some sort will be available on the Xbox 360 that you could just jump into and play all of the AAA games. It would be an access point. You need an internet connection. Could it work on the Xbox 360? Probably, and maybe that's kind of what's happening here. Who knows? But interesting. The Xbox 360 getting an update in 2025. Who would have thought? As crazy to think this console came out 20 years ago. All right, let's talk PlayStation and PlayStation Plus. We got a pretty interesting interview here from Stephen Titill's Game File and Nick McGuire, who is the Vice President of Global Services at PlayStation. As we know, PlayStation Plus adjusted a few years ago. They came out, they added the tiers that are currently there on the PlayStation in order to directly compete with Xbox Game Pass. I think that is a pretty obvious thing. They saw the direction Xbox Game Pass was going, how it was becoming more popular, and they had to do something to improve their PlayStation Plus service, so they added in those multiple tiers. And it's seemingly, based off of the interview, it is going well for them, as well as we have information about will they ever be adding more content to this service? Will they ever be adding their games day one into the service? He gives an answer, even if they are, I think, in the future. I don't think he would reveal it here, but he does provide some more insight on that. First of all, he goes on here to say that engagement in Plus has never been higher than it is right now. And I will say PlayStation Plus, if you've been tracking the games that have been coming out monthly, I take a look at them. It has absolutely improved, even just from a year ago. PS Plus, from the third-party games that are dropping in there, has completely gotten better, and that is a great thing overall for the service. It goes on here also to talk about the expectations and the games and everything. He says that that the rework of PlayStation Plus surpassed expectations, and then he says something here that reminds me of all of the things that Xbox has been saying, and PlayStation is saying the exact same thing. So when you see people who are against Game Pass and cite all of these reasons that Xbox says is wrong, well, now PlayStation is basically saying it. He says it's really given us a new way to reach the audiences with these games, and it's given new value to partners to find new people to play their titles. That is one of the biggest things that Game Pass had emphasized going forward, is providing the partners and the developers new people that would have never discovered their games an avenue to go ahead and discover them. Continues here and says, and just the engagement we see from it is really positive in terms of the number of people choosing that catalog and coming back month after month. And I would say that's probably what's happening with Game Pass as well. Now, when it comes to price increases for PlayStation Plus, CEO Hideaki Nishino said that to investors that Plus price increases had been partly a result of increasing value that they would want to bring to players. And that comments obviously got people talking. And in terms of the price hike, he adds here that we will continue to add more value and adjust our pricing strategy in a dynamic way to maximize profitability. Now, McGuire had no comments, and there's no plans on pricing to talk about directly. I would say Nishino's comments basically is saying there will be price hikes in the future, but it's not going to be as of right now, because they're trying to bring in their first party titles day one, it's probably going to be because they are going to go out there and try to get more big third party deals to drop into the service day one. And then if they're able to do that, then they would probably raise their prices, as well as potentially adding in more features to the service itself and giving people more options, maybe for backwards compatibility and more back catalog games coming in here. But right now it's all speculation as to whether prices will increase. And again, he says here, McGuire says that I think we just want to invest in Plus. We want to invest in the proposition, bring more value to users. And we're seeing high growth in extra and premium. And they also want to reinvest in the service by adding new features to it. And when it comes to the paid tier, he said, we've gone past 2 billion hours of game playing in the last year across our first and third parties. Now, the PS Plus, they haven't given really numbers for it, how many people are actually users using PlayStation Plus services at the higher end tiers. But they do say here that the Plus subscribers are solidly transitioning to the current console generation. 81% of PS Plus subscribers own a PS5, up from 70% a year ago. And when it comes to putting games into the service, day one games from their first parties, McGuire says we've sort of stayed true to our strategy across the board, where we're not looking to put games in day and date. He says our strategy of finding 4 or 5 independent day and date titles and using that to complement our strategy of bringing games in when they're 12, 18 months old or older, that balance for us is working really well across the platform. And says if there were 6 or 7 great opportunities, then we would go for them as well. So when it comes to potentially getting day and date first party titles into PlayStation Plus, it's not happening right now. And like I said, I don't think he would have hinted that that was going to happen in the future. I do think there will be a point where there are first party games dropping into PlayStation Plus in the next few years. I would be shocked if it doesn't happen in any form, whether that is their multiplayer titles at the very least that do drop into it. Like if you do think about a game like Concord, for example, that failed after, 6 days or so. They charged for that game. That wasn't a free game, but imagine if they would have dropped that into PlayStation Plus right away. Would more people have played it? Would it have potentially been saved for at least a little bit longer, or maybe given it time to breathe so that they could fix all of the things that people didn't like about it, and then it could still be around today? We don't know, but we have seen successful games that are multiplayer drop into subscription services and do well, and then credit Game Pass as one of the reasons why it has done well and has succeeded. So we will see if they do change anything. Maybe their single player, first party, cinematic, story driven games don't drop into the service because those are games you pick up, you're one and done. You're not jumping back into those. And the user base potentially would just subscribe to the service for a month and then unsubscribe going forward. So they may not see the value in that. But I could definitely see multiplayer games. If they're trying to charge $30, $40 for their multiplayer games, they could stick with that strategy, but then also add into PS Plus, and that would incentivize people to check it out there or even subscribe to the service to play. But we will see going forward. PlayStation Plus has been successful according to PlayStation. So all the naysayers about subscription services, especially on the PlayStation side, who hate Game Pass and always think that it is a bad service ruining gaming, it sounds like from this interview, PlayStation is continuing with it and even going to be doubling down, looking for more deals to get games into the service. Now, if you have a PlayStation 5, one of the things that was potentially an issue people had talked about when it did launch was the liquid metal. There were stories going around that don't put your PS5 vertically because the liquid metal is going to leak and your PS5 is going to end up breaking. Well, we haven't heard about that throughout this generation at all. So those felt like false alarms. Well, it's back here in the news here from WCCF Tech. It says here that PlayStation 5 liquid metal issues could cause many consoles to die in a couple of years as more users are reporting problems over time. This is on the latest episode of Moore's Law is Dead, the Broken Silicon podcast. Alderon Games founder Matthew Cassels highlighted how the system's critical flaw is causing liquid metal used for cooling to drip down the bottom of the console when placed vertically, causing dry spots on the APU that compromise its functionality and forces a shutdown under certain conditions. And this is getting more widespread. And a while back, the developer received reports that the latest update to their game, the dinosaur-themed MMO Path of Titans, was causing PlayStation 5 consoles to power off suddenly. And initially, the developer provided the usual basic troubleshooting advice like cleaning the console, but the issue persisted. And after pinning the related discussion thread on the developer's Discord server, more people showed up reporting the problem. And then after Alderaan Games pinned a more general message asking players to report if their PS5 systems were suddenly shutting down while playing any game, and a lot more users showed up with their reports. And then some members also experienced similar issues and are now investigating what could be the cause. Everything seems to point to the Liquid Metal issue. So this is what they are saying potentially could happen. They also did go on here to talk to Sony about the issue, and they say that really, I guess nothing came out of that, but with the latest update of Path of Titans, the percentage of players affected by the issue rose to 2%, 3%, which may not sound like a lot, but it's still a lot of units. So who knows? I mean, I don't think this is any full confirmation that it is the Liquid Metal, but they are obviously thinking that that could be one of the issues. It's just the system isn't cooling enough. The Liquid Metal is not doing its job and putting the system under stress, which is making it shut down. Interesting. We'll see. We'll see if there are reports of this happening over the next year, over the next couple of years, as we get closer to the end of the PS5. But the reality is, we are 2025. This released in 2020, and overall, we've heard almost no real big issues here about this Liquid Metal. So I would say it's probably not a big issue here that would plague many consoles out there. It could be smaller issues here and there, but pretty much every console does have a batch of them that break down, have issues. Manufacturing wasn't the best and something's wrong with it. Could that be the issue here with the PS5 for some people? We'll see. We'll see if it does end up getting more widespread, at least with the launch units of the PlayStation 5. A couple more things here. Square Enix. We know their history with Final Fantasy. People want them to go back to turn-based. They have it. Final Fantasy 16 is an action RPG, which I'm fine with. I do like my turn-based games as well. One of my favorite games of this year, probably my game of the year right now, is Claire Expedition 33. Amazing turn-based RPG with its own spin on it. Lots of Twitch reaction to the combat itself, which I thought was very, very fun. But I will say I don't want every turn-based game to be like this one with the combat. I do still like my traditional turn-based RPGs. And it looks like Square Enix is going to go back to making more traditional turn-based RPGs in Final Fantasy games, which I think would be a good move. At their shareholders meeting, they say here, at the SE shareholders meeting, one investor said they would like new Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy games to be turn-based and highlighted Expedition 33's success as an example. And Square Enix recognizes the overall success of that, which could mean they see this, they see what their investors are wanting from them, and they make that move. Because when you think about how some of these big companies make games, at the end of the day, they're trying to make the shareholders happy. And if they ask for that and they see that it could be successful, they've seen previous games like Claire Expedition 33 be absolutely massively successful, their next one may end up going in that direction. I would not be shocked if Final Fantasy brings Final Fantasy 17 out and it is a completely turn-based game, because 16, we've seen the articles, we've gone through the investor reports and everything. They said that overall the game initially didn't meet all of their expectations, and maybe they want to make sure that the next one that comes out meets them right from the front. It becomes a game of the year candidate like Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is going to be. So maybe they take that risk there and try another turn-based version of Final Fantasy, which I think would be a good move. But we will see. It's good to see that they are recognizing it, and this is a game, Expedition 33, that's turned heads across the industry since it has released. So yesterday we got news about Hypixel from Hytale that was being canceled and the development studio was being shut down. This is a Minecraft style of game, and they're under Riot Games, and everything for this game now is being closed off. And we got some information here about kind of what is happening here, and everything is being blamed on, at least by this person, on the internal leadership. This is spotted by Games Radar Plus, the former security and IT lead at Hypixel Studios, Dev/Null, provided more information on the cancellation. And he's saying it's all leadership, saying here, what could possibly go wrong when you hire new leadership that thinks the original team is incompetent? He answered it himself, stating the whole project ends up going in circles until it dies. And they also add here that at the mismanagement that stole the opportunity for Hytale to flourish, or you should be angry at the mismanagement, and replied that the League of Legends creator was an absolute pleasure to work with from people to leaders. Riot understood the power of empowering and giving folks agency, and the former developer concluded the Hytale's issues were all internal to Hytale's leadership, and that they actually did have a legacy engine that they were using inside the studio, adding that the version was fun and had tons of potential. So they're blaming leadership as to what happened. I feel like a lot of the times, especially with bigger companies that are overseeing these smaller studios and these smaller games, it is the leadership trying to impose these things that gamers just don't want to see, that ends up having the game failing. And this sound like, at least from him, this is only one person's account. So yeah, you do have to take it with a grain of salt, because maybe not everybody does agree, but at least from this person, it does sound like leadership is the people behind that ruined Hypixel Hytale. I've never played, didn't even actually really know too much about this game until this story did drop. And finally, DBrand. They made grips for the Nintendo Switch 2. And if you've been seeing some of the videos out there, it's kind of been funny, because these grips, although they make great grips, have made holding the Switch 2 dangerous, because it just kind of falls out of your hand. The Joy-Con falls off. Initially, DBrand had went against this and said that they had created it so that you don't hold it that way. But now they are responding back and going back and conceding here that they were wrong, and they'll be improving the Switch 2 grips, and all customers will be getting new versions of these DBrand grips. So they say here that, first of all, the issue seems to happen when players hold the Switch 2 by the Joy-Cons without supporting the main console from behind with their fingers, which is ridiculous that this would happen. I don't know if you've seen any of these videos, but basically the console just falls off. You pick it up without supporting the console, and the Joy-Con will just literally fly out of your hands, or the tablet will literally fly out of your hands, which is dangerous, because this will mean you could easily break this thing. But they go on here and they concede here that it is wrong, and they will actually be fixing this issue and sending out new grips to everybody. They say, now in a new post on the DBrand Reddit page, the company has pledged we're fixing it, and told customers that its previous statement was unacceptable, saying, after reading through your feedback, it's quite clear that our post was a spectacularly terrible response to the issue at hand. Some of you have expressed that opinion in a perfectly reasonable way. Others have expressed it with literal death threats. We're not clear on how this went from a problem we need to address to this is the worst company to ever exist, but we acknowledge that every complaint we've received is underpinned by a problem that we alone are responsible for solving. As easy as it is to boil our original post down to you're holding it wrong, what we're sober to now is the point that you should be allowed to hold it however the F you want without detachment occurring. We get it. Please continue dunking on us for the next 6 to 8 months for reincarnating Steve Jobs. And they now pledge that everyone, whether or not you're experiencing this issue, is getting a free replacement set of Joy-Con grips. So that is a great way to make up for this issue, and to obviously make up for how they initially handled it, which is just give people a brand new one, make it simple, ship it out to them, no hassles there. But of course, there will be people here for a while waiting for grips that work properly. So I wonder if they'll even care by the time these do end up landing, or if they pick up another one. But yeah, that is kind of interesting, because I have a Switch 2. I was looking at grips, because my hands with the Switch, it just always has not been ergonomically nice because of how flat it is. So I'm looking at what grip to get. Was looking at this DBrand one, but obviously now I'm not going to. I'm going to wait till they either fix it or find a different one to get. But I'll end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.